Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I'm joined as always by the man who just had a fried egg roll on top of a nervous stomach. It's Greg. How are you today, buddy?
Very well indeed.
Good.
Looking forward to quite a lot of good one-liners in today's TV programme that we're going to be talking about. But yeah, I'm fine. I meant to say to you before we started recording, I'm going to be on another podcast, but not as a regular, only as a guest, and not on a podcast that has anything to do with Scottish news and pop culture. I'm going on a local podcast here in Dubai in my professional capacity to talk about the thing that I'm supposedly an expert on. Because, you know, as much as I'm an expert on Scottish news and pop culture, as we've demonstrated over the last almost 6 years, it's incredibly difficult to monetize being an expert on Scottish news and pop culture. But my day job, somebody wants to hear my thoughts, and I'm not being paid for it. Well, obviously I get paid for my day job, but I'm not being paid for my guest appearance. But I'm not going to say what the podcast is, because I don't want to overlap. I don't want the credibility of this podcast to be affected by the credibility of this local podcast that I'm going to appear on here. But I'm hoping that the last 6 years have prepared me to come across eloquently and coherently on this one that I'm making a guest spot on.
I'm sure you'll be wonderful, Greg. Are you going to be, having to watch your language, of course? Like, make sure you don't drop an F-bomb or a C-bomb, and that's obviously, I mean Cosmo when I say C-bomb.
Of course.
Are you going to have to, make sure you don't talk about any wanking in cars or anything, just drop in a tenants occasionally or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the people that tune into this podcast are not looking for stories about delivery drivers masturbating before dropping an order off, or Vagger Lovelies, or James Cosmo worship. Unfortunately, I think all that will be lost on them. I mean, it'll have to be my professional accent as well, which, as somebody who has lived overseas for longer than a good bit longer than even I have, and I've been 11 years almost this year. You know that when you live in a country where English is not the first language, especially if you're from Scotland, you have to make yourself understood. So that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, you certainly do. Yeah, I know. I feel your plight. I know exactly that. And yeah, I do wonder sometimes if my podcast voice is a bit different from a normal voice. So I don't know.
I think it was back in those rough and ready, heady days of the podcast. I think we both made a bit more of an effort, but you could always, if we could listen back to like the old episodes, you could always tell when we'd had maybe a can or two when we were recording, because we sort of start off with "Welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast for Scottish news and pop culture," and then like by maybe 45 minutes in, it would just get a wee bit more broad from both of us. There'd be the odd "can you do that?" and "ken what I mean?"
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I did notice that, if I, in the days when I did drink, if I was recording, then I did notice that, the swearing was increased more towards the end of the episode. Would be dropping in fucks left, right, centre, little long pauses, not dramatic, just trying to remember what I was thinking or what I was saying, repetition. I don't miss those days.
Try to think of something erudite to say. I mean, I was thinking the other day, I mean, we're recording this on Friday night. Unless it's a special occasion, a drop of alcohol doth not pass my lips from Sunday to Thursday. But on a Friday, I do reward myself with a beer or two. And, and the same on a Saturday. Like it's very rare that I get on it these days because, I enjoy alcohol. And I don't want to ruin it for myself. So, I've kind of learned when to call it a limit. There will still be times, like very occasionally, where that limit is surpassed, but those times are fewer and further between. But I do remember not that long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, coming into my room to record with a wee cooler with 6 cans of lager in it and one of those ice blocks in there to keep them cold, and drinking all 6 in the space of however long we recorded that night, and being like pretty boozy by the end of it.
I didn't hear it at the time, but I remember quite vividly editing that episode and hearing your cooler getting unzipped and then zipped closed again. I was like, oh, Greg's getting another can.
Having to edit out all the burps and the, Yeah.
Me, I can say absolutely nothing because I know, there's a couple of episodes I would not be able to listen back to because I know I was a bit boozy on it. So, thankfully those days are long past now. Won't be doing that again. I think, next week I'll be 6 months sober. So
6 months. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Very, very pleased about that. So
but I remember asking you last week, I think when we were talking about the Tartan Army booze cruise story and Scotland's chances in the World Cup, and I remember asking you, if we qualified for the last 16, do you think you would celebrate with a beer? And you were resolutely, no, definitely not.
Yeah, no.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the funny thing. No desire either.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero desire. So,
that's good for you, man.
We'll see how it goes. But
I think that's the way to do it. I remember Richard Hammond. I know he drinks now, but I remember years ago when they were still doing Top Gear on the BBC, and he said that he did dry January one year and he felt great. He just felt really good. So he just decided to keep it going without putting any pressure on himself. You know what I mean? Just like, I've done January. I feel really good. I'm just going to keep it going. I think he went for quite a long time before he just, went back to having a drink again. But I think for people who want to stop drinking, who don't necessarily have a problem with it, but want to stop, I think you're not putting too much pressure on yourself to do it, and not saying, right, well, that's it. I'm just going to, just saying, right, well, I'm not going to drink for this week. I'm not going to drink for this month. I'm not going to drink for this month. I've done a month. Let's see if I can do another month, and doing that kind of thing, and not really kind of putting the pressure on yourself. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I think so. Like I'd be lying. I think I have said internally to myself, I'm about to say in a podcast, but yeah, I think I'm done.
Right.
And I think, but who knows? I don't want to say never because you never know. But yeah, we will just see what happens. But I'm enjoying it at the moment, and long may that continue. Very happy about that. But it does mean, obviously, the name of the podcast, Culture Swally, is a little bit redundant in terms of that. But I can have a swally, a ginger, or, something like that. So it's fine. Yeah. Mori cup, yeah, exactly. A bit difficult to get. I will have, in fact, I'll have my cherry zero. That's a good reminder, actually, because I've only got 1 can of Iron Brew left in the fridge. I need to go and do an Iron Brew run.
I was trying to describe to somebody recently the taste of red cola, which tastes a lot like Mori cup. They're very similar. I mean, they're almost exactly the same. I think, but I know, and there's literally no words to this. It doesn't taste like anything. You know what I mean? You're like, it tastes like red cola or Mori cup. You can't say it didn't taste like anything else.
I seem to remember it's like a fruit flavored drink, but it doesn't say which fruit. Or
exactly.
It's like a mixture of fruit.
There's been no fruit near that fucking drink ever.
Did you ever, it was a staple at my grandmother's house when I was a kid. The tins of like Del Monte fruit cocktail.
Oh yes. You
ever drink the syrup in that?
Yep.
It's not too dissimilar to red cola.
Yeah, maybe. I think it depends what's in there. What I used to love about those cans of fruit, because like my mother, I don't know if your mum ever bought them. My mum never bought them, but my gran and Papa always had them. And there would always be a couple of cherries in there. So it would usually be like pineapple, and what fruit was even in it? Like peach, like
pear,
pears, syrupy,
yeah.
and maybe like maybe one or two cherries. And because I was my grand's special little soldier, and crucially at that stage, the only grandchild, she always fished out the cherries and made sure I got them with my fruit and my ice cream. After my macaroni, cheese and oven chips on a Saturday night in front of the A-team. The fucking best days! The best days! Those were. I'd been able to have it in the living room so I wouldn't miss the A-team with a wee tray on my lap, which, they were of a generation where you did not eat off your knee, but they would let their special little soldier do it. So on a Saturday, I would get my toasted cheese in front of the wrestling and then Airwolf in the afternoon. And then in the late afternoon, because my gran and papa were people that had their dinner at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, I would have my every Saturday macaroni and cheese, oven chips, then maybe a slice of Viennetta or maybe a tin of fruit with some ice cream. And then at supper time, my papa would come in with like a tray of, I'd get a chocolate biscuit as well after my dinner. And he would come in at supper time, he'd have a cup of tea for himself. My gran would have a glass of iron brew. That was we should have one glass of iron brew and that like a day, a small glass, and that would be at like supper time. It should be about 8 o'clock, maybe 8:30, and we'd have some biscuits. I would have a glass of milk, and then set up off to bed just before the 9 o'clock news started when I was wee, And then as I got a bit older, sent off to bed before the 10 o'clock news started. After Dempsey and Makepeace on a Friday night. I mean, kids of today will never know. They'll never know the pleasure of those mid-1980s days and being ruined by your grandparents.
Yeah, that's the happy memories, the very happy memories of stuff like that. It's funny, that's the Saturday night and it was full of joy. And we're not going to turn into one of those podcasts that speaks about the Sunday night and the dread and the trauma. But I was just looking on Reddit before we came in to record, and someone had put on, I think it was like the UK TV, I'm now in my 50s. Should I start watching Last of the Summer Wine from the beginning? Like, would I get it now? Because I never watched it at the time. And a few people went on like a big kind of thing. Like, if you watch it, it's actually about really like a group of like 20-year-old lads or teenagers that are trapped inside the bodies of old men and just having a laugh before they die. But then people went about the Pavlovian dog effect of the theme music, or it was more the Antiques Roadshow that came after it.
Right.
That music signaled, oh fuck, school tomorrow.
Yes,
and it was just I still, if you hear some music like that, still brings joy. For example, on a Sunday night, like the Two Ronnies, that still brings joy if I hear that. Or of course, my personal favorite, Lovejoy. But things like, I don't know,
Sunday night as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then just some little like Howard's Way that is like, oh no, it's Sunday night.
Yeah. I mean, Last of the Summer Wine, although I know it came first, but it's basically a sort of English lower middle class still game, but without the toilet cleaner, isn't it?
Kind of is, yeah. You could say that. Yeah. We never saw Jack and Victor in a bath, although I guess we did see them in a canoe or a dinghy. But yeah, I used
to be like Last of Summer Wine. I used to watch it if I was out my if it was obviously school holidays, and I wasn't, because I would go with my gran and papa's every weekend after my dad split up, because my dad was living at my gran and papa's after they moved out of the family home, and so I was very rarely there on a Sunday night. Very rare. It would have to be like a holiday the next day. But I used to love Last of the Summer Wine. Just gentle comedy, isn't it? I mean, you're wee, it's funny. Like, it's the antics of Compo and Cleggy and all that. I don't know how well it holds up now, so I've not seen it for a long time. But I think they kind of did it to death, didn't they? They not run for about 40 years or something.
Yeah, I think it was like 35 years, and then they did. Even like the original 3 were no longer there, and kind of it was rehashed and stuff. But yeah, I don't know if it holds up, but you're right. Like, I enjoyed it as a kid, but really it was all about, it was Compo we liked when he was a kid, because he was the kind of rebel, but he was kind of being very inappropriate with Nora Batty, and he would be on some sort of register nowadays, I think, if that was the
case. Compo's cancelled.
Compo would be cancelled for that thing. Anyway, That is Greg's weekend as a child. And I'm very glad I didn't make any jokes about his Nana's cherry. Okay, right. Shall we have a look at what's been happening in Scotland over the last couple of weeks, mate?
Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, buddy, what have you seen in the news in the last couple of weeks that has caught your lovely eye?
I nearly lost. I nearly forgot my line there because I was too busy thinking about my Nana's cherry.
Sorry.
Okay, so my first story this week, Scott. Rarely a month goes by without ScotRail being in the news for something or other. This is a particularly good one. It comes from the Daily Record on the 3rd of February, so a few days old. The headline reads, ScotRail shares fascist logo on new trains designed for East Coast Main Line. ScotRail insists the image did not represent what the new trains will look like when they eventually enter service. They hastily added, but you know for sure that's exactly what they were supposed to look like until somebody pointed this out. So ScotRail has been accused of sharing a fascist logo on an AI-generated image to promote its new fleet of trains. Rail chiefs showed off the mock-up of a battery electric train during an industry conference in Edinburgh last week, but the publicly owned transport giant was forced to make an embarrassing correction after it was pointed out the lightning bolt on the side of the carriage was similar to the logo of the defunct British Union of Fascists logo.
Oh, God.
The notorious far-right movement was formed by Oswald Mosley before it was banned by Winston Churchill during the Second World War. Rail industry insiders blamed the error on an AI-generated image and criticised ScotRail for not paying a designer to draw an accurate artist's impression of the new trains, which will eventually replace older diesel engines on the East Coast Main Line. Gareth Dennis, whose name's highlighted with a link for some reason, don't know why, a railway engineer and author, spotted the image and shared it on social media. He said, "Top tip, to avoid having the British Union of Fascists logo on the side of your mock-up train, don't use horrible text-to-image AI slop instead of using actual designers and artists." ScotRail insisted the image did not represent what the new trains will look like, brackets, anymore, and was merely a visual aid to support the information being provided to attendees. A rail industry insider told the Record, "Scotland is a country with a wealth of creative talent in engineering school. For a public body to bypass those brilliant people looks pretty contemptuous. That the US imported text-to-image slop generator itself, just a large plagiarism machine, hallucinates offensive and legally dubious imagery is an inevitable side effect. Pay decent staff, and this wouldn't happen. Magnus Con, that's a good Scottish name, eh? Magnus Con.
Sounds like a Scottish transformer.
It does, yeah. It sounds hard as fuck. Magnus Con, ScotRail Fleet Strategy Director, said, "Skilled teams across ScotRail are working hard on the procurement process to deliver new trains, which is exciting news for customers who will benefit in the years to come. The use of these images doesn't take away from that work and were used at this early stage in the process to help attendees visualise what new trains would look like." So the logo in question, it's a little bit like the logo that the Flash has on the front of his costume, only the lightning bolt is a wee bit at an angle. It's not like the Flash's lightning bolt is at sort of 6 o'clock, isn't it? But this one is at a wee bit of an angle, and that is the logo that the British Union of Fascists chose. The black shirts, as they were called. I
Googled this whilst you're telling me, because I was like, I need to see this. Mm-hmm. So I was unaware. If you'd said to me, what is the British Union of Fascists logo, I would not have a clue. So seeing this, I'm like, okay, that's new to me. Yeah. Instantly, when I saw the logo on the train, my first thought was the Flash.
Yeah. Exactly
the same as you. And I would say that, the Flash, it comes out of the circle, which I think the Flashes does as well. Mm-hmm. And to say, oh, well, that's the British Union of Fascists, rather than that's the Flash, shows, basically what's going through people's minds. So I would turn the tables and say, well, you've obviously got the British Union of Fascists on your mind.
Yeah.
So it's your problem, not me. It's, I don't see colour. So I obviously, it's your issue, not mine.
You're obviously fascist daft, and that's why it's your go-to when you see a lightning bolt in a circle. Do you think maybe the Flash is like a sort of stealth, like fascist character? Do you think we need to revisit some of his early stories to see if there's some like subtle racism and totalitarian politics in his adventuring?
I'm going to avoid any Ezra Miller jokes for this segment, but that was on my mind, obviously. I don't think he did anything fascist, did he? But he obviously he's a troubled individual.
He's just an odd man, a very odd man.
Yeah, very odd man. It does have a link with what we're going to be talking about today, though, because, of course, he was in when you talk about Kevin.
Of course.
With Tilda Swinton. Yeah, I think this is just, it's harmless, like in terms of they've generated an AI image. Who doesn't nowadays? And it's to signal, to show, the battery power. That's what is on batteries and things. And it's the Flash. And I think this is exactly what we want on the Swally. It's a story about fuck all. And
exactly.
I think it's nonsense, and I would turn the tables back to, who was it that said it?
It was
Gareth Dennis.
Gareth Dennis, yeah.
Yeah, rail engineer.
And author.
It turns out he's the author of the Bible of the British Union of Fascists.
I bet he's written some fucking really boring books about trains, that guy, right? Because books about trains, unless it's like Thomas the Tank Engine, books about trains are fucking really boring. Really boring. My stepdad's literally got hundreds of books about trains because he's a big engineering guy. I mean, boring.
Not if you're interested in that type of thing, though, Greg. Like, it's boring to you, but it's not boring to someone that's interested in that.
Certain type of person is interested in that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the most interesting train guy is that guy you like that wears his camera on his head and goes on Instagram. Can't remember his name, but he's always wearing like Prada trousers or Armani shirts.
He's one of the new presenters of the Grand Tour, the Top Gear thing.
Oh, is it?
That they're doing, yeah.
Well, I heard it here first. Don't know if you did, listeners, but I fucking did.
It was in all the news. I think yesterday. So that's got him. Well, I look, it's not interesting to you, but it's it's the same. Like our mutual friend has lots of books on German tanks and SS during the war and stuff. Now that is more of an interesting topic than trains. I'll give you that. But personally, I don't find that interesting. But he does.
But you know that he's only a few years away from unveiling his manifesto. Right?
Yeah.
He already started yesterday with the uniform gym gear chat. You know what I mean? He's only a few comments away from send them all home, reopen the camps. He's already grown a moustache.
Oh, Jesus. Right, okay, moving on. I think, story about nothing. We'll see what happens there. Yeah.
Anyway.
Poor ScotRail.
Yeah, they just can't catch a break. But the good news is that when John Swinney took over from Nicola Sturgeon, he saw the absolute silliness about banning having a beer on the train, and now you are allowed to have a drink on a ScotRail train again, obviously within reason. Drink responsibly.
Just like Ted Danson in Loch Ness, you can have a can of export on the train now.
You can, exactly. Yeah, they'll be all the better for it. Anyway. That's my first story of this week. What have you got for your first one?
My first story also involves a train, Greg, but more of a subway train. This is from the Scottish Sun last week. The headline is, Police probe video of man dressed as duck pouring milk over himself on Glasgow subway. And there's images of this, and indeed there is a man dressed as a duck pouring milk on himself. A man dressed as a duck has ruffled feathers on Glasgow's subway after carrying out an unacceptable stunt. The prankster appeared painted yellow, wearing a beak, and on a train before carrying out the bizarre act. Footage shows the man shuffling along the carriage on his knees before dumping cereal and milk all over his own head. Passengers can be seen sitting oblivious in the background as milk splashes across the floor and seats, leaving a mess. The man is then heard shouting before hopping to his feet and leaving. The clip, shared on TikTok, sparked a frenzy online as confused commuters tried to piece together what they just witnessed. One baffled viewer wrote, "I was wondering if it happened in that carriage." Another said, "I got on the subway after this happened. Never been more confused in my life." Others were furious, demanding punishment for the man. One added, "I feel bad for the person that is to clean this up. Should be £1,000 fine and a lifetime ban on public transport."
Lifetime ban?
Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, SPT, slammed the stunt as unacceptable vandalism and confirmed that the matter had been passed on to the cops. An SPT, I keep wanting to say STP for Stone Temple Pilots, but SPT. An SPT spokesperson said, "Behaviour such as this is clearly unacceptable and will not be tolerated. It causes delays in the subway service, as we need to remove the train from the system for clean-up, and it negatively impacts passengers travelling with us. The incident has been reported to the British Transport Police." So, and the photos are exactly as you think. It's a man painted yellow, wearing a beak, and he's pouring gallons of milk on his head. No idea what it's for or why, but it happened in Glasgow's subway. You ever seen anything like that in the Glasgow subway?
No, I mean, my experience of Glasgow subway in my life has been overwhelmingly positive. Gotta be honest. I mean, I think it's maybe one of the smallest subway routes in the world, but it can get you to the West End really quick. And if you fall asleep and miss your stop, just keep going. So it just goes round in a big oval. So it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But I think that, if I think back to before it was easy to sort of record these silly stunts and put them in the public forum, like you'd have stuff like Trigger Happy TV, right? Which now at the time that was really quite funny. Dom Jolly dressed as a snowman standing in a snowy garden, surreptitiously hurling snowballs at people as they walk past. And then standing really still. I mean, that's still funny. Him setting up a big group of people outside a porn shop when a guy walks out and celebrating him because he's the 100th customer or something. That's incredibly funny. And then I guess Jackass kind of took... And the thing, I like Jackass, but I didn't really like some of the stunts when they played a prank on people. Because, there's one where Joy Knoxville drives a moped dressed as an old man through the showroom window. And I know that it would all be set up in advance with the shop and stuff, but obviously the people that are serving them were being pranked. Yeah. And there's a bit of meanness in it that I don't really like. But the thing is, like, all those pranks they're intelligent and they're funny, I guess, unless they're being mean to somebody, they are funny. But these ones where you can just film yourself like mugging something, kind of taking the piss out of people and put it on TikTok or whatever, I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you could say he's not harming anyone, but he is impacting the lives of people, because it's true enough that subway car is going to be stinking of milk. Yeah. Probably has to be taken out of commission for the, a couple of hours whilst it's cleaned.
Yeah, maybe.
Because that's going to stink. And yeah, it does impact people. They might be late for work. They might be late for appointments. So yeah, he is, I guess, hurting people. He thinks it's a harmless stunt, that he's not hurting anyone. I've no idea what he's promoting or if it is something, but
it's not even intelligent. The fact that it can't be connected to anything other than this fucking attention-seeking arsehole try to get some clicks on his TikTok account or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, at least with those Dom Jolly, and I suppose the Jackass ones that, maybe through the modern lens can be perceived as being a wee bit cruel or whatever. They're well thought out, and they're quite clever and quite well executed, whereas this is just somebody with too much time on their hands.
Yeah.
Pouring milk all over the train, you know? It's not, I mean, come on. Some people shouldn't be allowed to have social media accounts.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, you know what? Let's not give the cunt any more publicity. Why not? He can duck off. Okay then, buddy. Right, what else have you seen this week?
So my next one comes from Glasgow Live, and the headline reads, "Man whips out Willie to take pee at famous Wallace Monument as cops race the scene. A police van..."
This is more like it.
Yeah, we're back in terra firma here. "A policeman in a patrol car with blue flashing lights raced to the scene at the famous Wallace Monument last Sunday." So the story goes on to say, officers raced to the famous Wallace Monument after a tourist flashed his manhood in the crown of the tower. A police van and a patrol car with blue flashing lights attended the Stirling Monument amid fears that a politically motivated crime may have been taking place. It is thought the offender whipped out his willy to take a pee at the top of the 220-foot structure, which involves a 246 step spiral staircase climb. Shocked visitors called the police over the outrageous act at the landmark that is a shrine to Scottish freedom fighter William Wallace. Officers climbed the tower. I bet they were fucking raging because I've been up the Wallace Monument.
No, never.
I mean, they've got floors to take a break all the way up with things in them, but going all the way up in a oneer, yeah. Officers climbed the tower and arrested the offender before dragging him down the stairs and into a waiting police van, reports the Daily Record. One source said, "People were doing as they do, gazing out from the crown of the National Wallace Monument to the various significant places like Stirling Castle, Bannockburn and Stirling Bridge. One of those gathered decided to get his manhood out in the room, which is essentially a watchtower and panoramic viewing area. He didn't seem to be aware that the Wallace Monument has massive cultural significance in Scotland. Some diehards would regard the act as desecration, and the man is lucky to have gotten away with a charge for antisocial behaviour." Well, that might be the truest thing in this article. The source added that they were stunned to see the police response, which involved a van, a patrol car, and at least 6 officers. They said the blue lights were flashing and it all looked quite dramatic for a Sunday afternoon. The police van stayed in the car park and the other car drove up the narrow pathway to the monument and parked there while they grabbed the guy and took statements from the staff. People were horrified at what he had done. The source added, "The guy looked like he might be in his 40s and he sounded as though he was speaking English in a second language. He wasn't keen on getting in the custody van, but you couldn't say he was resisting arrest." The 220-foot tower, built between 1861 and 1869, honours Sir William Wallace, whose heroics were immortalised in Mel Gibson's worldwide blockbuster Braveheart, which we covered in the podcast about 4.5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It stands on Abbey Craig, the site where Wallace is believed to have watched English troops before the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Around 80,000 people made their way to the town of Stirling from all over Scotland and beyond to attend the ceremony of the laying of the foundation stone in 1861. In March 2023, climate protesters claimed responsibility for damage caused to a glass display case containing the sword of William Wallace at the monument. The 3 demonstrators were admonished in court after claiming the actions of a suffragette as precedent. They were ordered to pay £3,333 compensation to Stirling Council. In August 2022, base jumpers made a 520-foot parachute plunge from the top of the historic landmark. The pair climbed the spiral staircase before changing into kilts, putting on Braveheart-style blue face paint and strapping on parachutes. They shouted "freedom" on the way down in a tribute to Mel Gibson's battle cry in the Oscar-winning Braveheart. And then in January 2024, vandals daubed spray paint on fixtures at the Wallace Monument. Staff discovered a mess painted on signs, wooden carvings and trees around the structure. A spokesperson for Stirling Council, which looks after the running of the building, said staff responded in line with security protocols and police were called to deal with the incident. A Police Scotsman spokesman said around 2:40pm on Sunday the 25th of January 2026, we received a report of a man exposing himself and urinating on a monument in Hillfoot Road in Stirling. Officers attended and traced him and he was issued with a fixed penalty notice. So do we think maybe, because famously there's no toilets in the Wallace Monument, so do you think he's been caught short and thought, well, I'll just take a piss off the top of the monument and hope it doesn't blow back at me or rain down on poor tourists at the base?
I think that's exactly what's happened here, Greg. I think case closed. I don't know. I mean, unless it's some sort of exhibitionist thing in terms of wanting to get his wanger out at a very high place. I don't know. I mean, speaking from experience, possibly. Could be. Maybe there was a wasp on
maybe, right.
his
like
penis,
into his trousers,
yeah, and he had to just get it out and wangle it around to thing. I don't know. People do funny things. It sounds to me like, he's just been caught short and he's wanting to have a pee. I don't think I would have thought, it's got to go somewhere. It's going to go down. Are you hoping that people are just going to think it's a wee splash of rain, or that you can maybe, it's like if you're going for a pee in the night and you try and aim for the side without hitting the water so that you don't make a noise.
Yeah.
Maybe he's thinking, right, if I can just get this down the side of the monument, it's just going to dribble down nicely and it's not going to hit anyone below.
It's just going to dribble down nicely. I mean, you're pretty high when you're at the top of the Wallace Monument, because like they say, the structure itself is over 200 feet high, but then it's on top of the Abbey Craig, so you're probably about, and this is complete guess here, but I would say you're probably about 700 feet from the ground at the top of the Wallace Monument, because you've got to go way up the Abbey Craig hill and then up the spiral staircase to the top of the thing. So you're up high. So it's windy. So I can imagine, like taking a piss off the top of the Wallace Monument, you're probably going to get wet jeans, because it's probably just going to blow back all over you, which I'm sure the Jackass guys did something like that, where they took a pee from a really high place and it blew back all over them. I seem to recall that in an old episode of Jackass or something like it, or Dirty Sanchez or something like that. But I mean, I'm not great up high unless I'm kind of closed in, you know what I mean? And the top of the Wallace Monument isn't closed in, and it was built in the 19th century when people were shorter, so it's not even like the wall. It comes up to like my hip, which isn't high enough. So the last time I was there, my dad and I took my daughters when they were young to the Wallace Monument, and of course young children know no fear. They were up there. My dad wasn't bothered. I had to sort of stay just at maybe just one or two steps from the top, so I wasn't quite on the base. Then of course my kids were causing me like severe anxiety just by standing with their little hands on the wall and looking out at the amazing views. But I'm like, don't stand so close. Come back. But if you've never been to the Wallace Monument, I can't recommend it highly enough. There's a lot of really interesting stuff to see. If you're afraid of heights, just bear that in mind. But it's definitely worth a few hours if you visit Stirling.
Just make sure you have a pee before you go.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you might get into a spot of bother.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, there's like they sell you the tickets at the bottom of the hill. Now, when I was a kid, you used to have to walk up the hill to get to, and it's quite steep to get to the monument. But in maybe the last like 10 or 15 years, like they do like a little van. So you buy your ticket from the little visitor centre at the car park, and then the van takes you up. You can walk up if you want to. When my dad and I took the girls, we walked up and we walked back down again. We just took our time, but for like people, maybe disabled people or older people and stuff, or people who just don't want to climb the hill, there's a wee bus there that'll take you up. So if you take your girlfriend to Scotland this year, you could do a lot worse than get the train from Glasgow to Stirling. Only takes like half an hour. Take her up the Wallace Monument.
Yeah.
Wait, smile on it. Yeah, sweet. Mind in the gutter there. Take her to visit the Wallace Monument.
I don't know if I'd go up, because I'm a bit, I'm scared of heights, and like I'm not great with going up that type of thing. Like when we went to Bruges last year, like I really wanted to go up the top of the church.
Oh, yeah. From the movie.
Bruges.
Yeah.
And we did go up. I got up at halfway and I'm like, I can't go any further.
Really? Could you see out all the way up? Is it like an exposed staircase? Right.
It is closed in, but it was so narrow.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't it just felt a bit, it's safe, but it felt a bit unsafe. And I don't
the Wallace Monument may not be the attraction for you then, because the spiral staircase is narrow and you'll have people coming down as you're going up, and it's not so bad it's not as bad going up, because obviously you can stay to the left where the steps are wider, but when you're coming down, you're more into the right-hand side if you're going up the way where the steps are narrower. So you have to be a bit careful on the way down that you don't sort of slip. But the great thing is that there's more than just the viewing crown at the top of the monument. I think there's 3 floors where they have sort of artifacts and stuff about Wallace, and they have a little movie running on a loop, just a little docu-movie just about the Battle of Stirling Bridge and about Wallace himself. So there's still stuff to go and see there. You don't have to go all the way up to the top. You can just go to maybe the first floor and check out some of that stuff, or maybe the second floor if you're feeling empowered. You don't necessarily have to go all the way up to the very, very top. If there's still lots of cool stuff to see.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll definitely add it to the list to have a think about. Lovely. All right.
So
that's a pee off the top.
No, don't do that. Whatever you do.
No.
I mean, it's like a hate crime. So that's my second story. What's your next story this week?
My second story, Greg, is something that I think sounds ideal for us. And it's from Glasgow Live this week. And the headline is, Scottish town boasts quaint bookshop you can live in and run for a week. For those who've harboured dreams of managing their own bookshop, an extraordinary opportunity awaits in Scotland, complete with a week-long residency above the premises. Scottish explorer Chris Lawler jumped at the chance, sharing his experience on TikTok. Fuck's sake, everything's about TikTok. Did you know there's a bookshop in Scotland you can live in and actually run for yourself for a week? He asked his viewers, before showcasing footage of himself serving customers, stocking shelves, and immersing himself in the day-to-day operations. It's part of a unique experience where you're handed the keys before heading up the stairs to relax and sleep. Then you wake up, open the doors, and live out a dream job. The venture in question is the Open Book, which is situated in Wigton, near Newton Stewart, in Scotland's southwest. The town holds the prestigious title of Scotland's National Book Town and hosts an annual 10-day literary festival. There are 8 bookshops on your doorstep, Chris noted, before revealing an added bonus for participants. The money collected from selling the books during your stay goes towards the book festival. The book festival website adds of the Open Book. Nestled in the pristine surroundings of Galloway, the Open Book is a charming bookshop and apartment situated on the main street. A holiday home with a difference. It presents a unique opportunity for visitors to run a real bookshop at the heart of the town's vibrant community. The aim is to celebrate books, independent bookshops, and welcome people from around the world to Scotland's National Book Town. Those interested in experiencing this unique getaway can make their booking, pardon the pun, via Airbnb. That was the news article, not me, a pun. I'd come up with something much better than that. With the accommodation operating on a self-catering basis. During their stay, guests are encouraged to get creative with the shop. Guests are free to change displays, price books, recategorise them, and make inventive use of blackboards that entice visitors to browse or chat. I would not be able to resist drawing a cock on that. Some guests are happy to quietly run the bookshop, while others come with firmer plans and creative ideas. Writing in response to Chris's clip, one TikTok user admitted, "I'm not one for travel. Even if I didn't suffer from acute agoraphobia, I just prefer staying at home and am satisfied seeing the world through the internet. But this, I'd travel for this. A week-long visit to run a bookshop before returning home, that's a dream." Another joked, "Unfortunately, they would never get me out of there again." Whilst a third fondly remembered, "That is the most beautiful little place. We stayed there last summer." And a fourth person joked, "Literally the perfect vacation, including a work cat. Take my money now." Oh, there's a cat. I can't do it. But yeah, so that is a wonderful opportunity to live and run your own bookshop for a week, Greg.
I'd love that. I mean, I would absolutely. I'd love to run it. We've spoken about it on here before, but I'd love to run a shop just selling stuff that I really liked. Like books or collectibles, records, whatever,
There, something round literally round the corner from me, there is this little space come up for rent. And I walked past it. I'd never noticed it before. It's one of those things. I've walked past it hundreds of times, never really noticed it. And it just has a to let sign on it. And I'm like, fucking hell, that space is incredible. And I showed my girlfriend, she's like, that's amazing. And I was like, but what do we do with it? Like, and I looked up, it's not that expensive. It's about €900 a month, right?
Right.
But I haven't got a fucking clue what I would do with it. Now, when I looked into it, it did say it was more of they were looking for more of like a hospitality type thing.
Right.
Which then got me into like, well, I could serve soup and toasties or something. But like, I don't know. I wanted to do something with this place because I just fucking loved the unit. But I've no idea. In an ideal world though, I would fucking love a shop. Like I would just love to run a little shop and just serve people. But it has to be something I'm passionate about. So exactly as we've said before, like records, books, toys. Yeah. I don't know. I'd fucking little newsagents do me as well. Like, just something that I could just enjoy and be knowledgeable about. But I don't know.
You could open it could be a second-hand bookshop that also sells like soup and filled rolls and toasties and things and coffees, and you can encourage people to come and just, work there for the day as long as they spend a certain amount, like €20. If you want to work here all day, you got to spend €20 or something like that. It'd be awesome. Bring a book, leave a book.
I would say that it's not a big space because we did look at it online and we're kind of planning and we're like, yeah, but it's just a shell. Like you need to put in a kitchen, you need to put in this. There'd be room for maybe about 3 tables. Okay. Once you'd done this, so it wouldn't be a big place, but. It was kind of a pipe dream in a way. It would definitely be more of a takeaway place.
Right, yeah.
Than being able to sit in. But, then there's so many other things that you've got to go through in terms of, getting food hygiene license and doing all this and all this and all this. And before you know it, you're well in the hole of stuff and then it's probably not going to take off because there's a coffee shop round the corner. There's a bar just opposite. It's, it's difficult. The negativity obviously creeps in. But yeah, I'm the same. I would love like a little nice little bookshop or something that can just sit and read and serve customers. It'd be lovely.
Yeah, me too. That sounds like a great wee place to go. I mean, if I had that, I'd have to go my own because it's about as far away from my wife's idea of a holiday as it's possible to get. But yeah, I'd love to do that. Love it. What a great idea.
Well, there you go, Greg. If you fancy a little week away yourself and treat yourself and get some of Scotland, then that's the perfect place for you. Lovely. Right. Have you seen anything else this week, buddy?
Nope. That's your whack.
Okay, right. Well, before we get on to what we're going to be talking about today, let's have a little word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Mario. Welcome to Peebles Fish Bar.
We believe we do the best fish and chips in Scotland.
And we do delicious pizzas too.
And the best ice cream you've ever tasted.
Come in and see us anytime.
Okay, then. So it was your choice on the podcast this week, Greg. So why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
So this week we're going back to 1990 and celebrated Scottish artist and writers follow-up series to the successful and super famous Tutti Frutti that we covered 2 years ago, I think now, wasn't it? We did Tutti Frutti?
Yes, yeah, 2 years ago.
Yes, I remember talking to your man from Ali from Scott's Way Hey about it when we met him in Glasgow, and that was after we covered it, so that's like 18 months ago. So BBC Scotland's Your Cheatin Heart, starring Tilda Swinton, John Gordon Sinclair, Ken Stott, Katy Murphy, Fairground Attractions' Eddi Reader, Tom Watson in multiple roles, fucking Barbara Rafferty, Terry McKindle, Maggie Bell, Peter Mullan. It's just Freddie Bordley, even in the last episode. It's just the absolute Culture Swally Cosmo Award smorgasbord, you might say, of some of our famous Scottish actors. It's all about Sissy Crouch, played by Tilda Swinton, and her husband Dorwood, who's just gone to jail, falsely accused of a robbery, and Ken Stott's Fraser Boyle's pursuit of his logbook and his stash of coke. And a lot lot of other things which are a little bit difficult to kind of keep up with, if I'm being quite honest. But I had never seen this before. I managed to get through it twice in the last 2 weeks. I watched the last episode for the second time this afternoon, like really up to the last minute, managing to get 2 screenings in. And I can't say that watching it twice tied up some of those little loose ends any better, if I'm being quite honest. But anyway, I did enjoy it. What did you think of your Cheatin Heart?
Yeah, similar to you, was my first time viewing it, and I was aware of it. I knew of its existence, but for some reason I'd never watched it. And I think very much like a lot of stuff, it's like, well, I'll save that because we'll cover it on the pod one day. So I was really glad that you picked it because it gave a chance to watch it. I had mentioned to my girlfriend in terms of, well, this is what we're doing next. And she said, oh, let's start. We lasted 10 minutes and I had to turn. I was like, did you get any of that? And it's really just the opening with, you know, Sissy and Dorwood and then John Gordon Sinclair and Katy Murphy. And she said, I did not get a single word. I know that she's in prison. And I was like, no, that's the joke. Like, he's in prison. Anyway, so we abandoned and I watched it on my own. I get it. The first episode, even I had to concentrate a little bit. But then my ears tuned in and it was like, okay, then it's plain sailing. I do think I get exactly what you mean. There's a lot going on in this. And it does take maybe the first episode to warm up. And then once you're in it, you're in it. Yeah. And you're in the world. Totally agree. There's a lot of loose ends, a lot of things not resolved, a lot of things that you're like, why was that in there? But it was. And it works in some ways as well. It's John Byrne, so we just let it go. The man's a fucking genius. And you just kind of just go with it. You're in his world, and this is what he wants to do. I really enjoyed watching it. It's bonkers. It's great. I didn't enjoy it as much as Tutti Frutti. No. Now, that could be because, you know, I did wonder if it was because of the cast, because of, you know, Coltrane and Roves and Donaghy, you know, the 3 big ones. And, you know, but then the cast in this is fantastic as well. Yeah. You've got Stott, you've got Swinton, John Gordon Sinclair, Katy Murphy being the glue that holds, you know, the two of them together in a way. It's a wonderful cast, even down the smaller parts, like we'll get on to Rafferty and McCrindle, the double act from heaven. And Eddi Reader as well. I did want to say, I noticed you were saying Eddi Reader. Like, are you confusing her with the lead singer from Pearl Jam?
Eddi Reader, sorry. Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I don't think it's that. I don't think I ever really knew if it was pronounced Eddi Reader or Eddi Reader. I guess it's Eddi Reader because it's spelled Eddi Reader, right?
Yeah, I've always known her as Eddi Reader, but you could be right. Maybe it is Eddi Reader. I don't know. I've always thought it was Eddi Reader, but I'm not sure. Incredible cast, which we will talk about in length. But I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of style and, you know, there's a lot of substance as well here. Parts of me had me howling with laughter, parts of me smiling. I mean, the last song and the last dance just had me grinning from ear to ear. But there's a lot of frustrating stuff in it as well that is unresolved and you're wondering why it's there.
I mean, my feeling with this is, so, you know, John Byrne, he's famous for writing, he's probably more famous in terms of sort of consistent output for his artwork, you know, and he's he only passed away a year or two ago, and he was producing. He's got a very distinctive style, you know. Like if you see the kind of the posters or DVD covers for like Tutti Frutti, and even some of the posters for some of the Slab Boys theatre runs, and this as well. Of course, he's got a very distinctive style. He's did a lot of stuff for Billy Connolly, and they were great friends. And then Tutti Frutti was obviously like a huge success. Like it was so successful, I think, that the BBC repeated it just a few months after it was first shown, you know? And Tutti Frutti is definitely a lot more coherent than this. it does end, spoilers if you've not seen Tutti Frutti, if you haven't seen it, maybe stop listening now, but it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, if you like, with setting himself on fire on stage. This ends a bit ambiguously as well, but it feels a little bit, and I don't say this to criticise it, because I did enjoy it, but it just feels like he's had a kind of freer reign to indulge in, some of his sort of famous eccentricity and idiosyncrasies and things. Like it shouldn't work, right? But having Tom Watson play, is it 5 different parts? Two of which are quite significant parts, and then 3 kind of one scene parts. It's like a priest, a barber, and an old lady. It's just, it's that kind of thing, and it's sort of, there's a couple of moments of quite high drama in it. There's an attempted rape, there's 2 murders, there's an attempted murder when with Helen Atkinson Wood's character, and then there's moments of like high comedy, like the cocaine raining down and Ken Stott getting hot coffee poured on his cock and all this sort of thing. And, I think because we know John Byrne and we're familiar, we've done the Slab Boys on here, which is an amazing play, and there's been so many televised productions of it, as well as theatre runs of it. If you've not seen it, you should really, really, really worth your while. And Tutti Frutti, I mean, there's quite a lot of sort of eccentricity in Tutti Frutti as well, but it's not as broad as it is in this, And he's obviously having a lot of fun with the kind of Scottish country and western scene, but what I like there is that it would be really easy to roast that. Because the kind of cowboy hats and cowboy boots and that style of shirt and everything, I mean, it's so Nashville and American and things, but there has been for years and remains now even like a really big country and western scene in Scotland. It'd be so easy to take the piss out of it, and he stops just short of taking the piss out of it. He sort of celebrates, because that's for something to be so American, being so broadly American, being so popular in the west of Scotland, that by itself is kind of a mad thing, But he doesn't. He's quite generous to it, and even like he doesn't even have his Frank McCluskey character played by John Gordon Sinclair. He doesn't even like have that character really needle it,
No, and I think it would have been easy to have McCluskey taking the piss out of it, and you think that's the way it's going to go, but it's not at all. Fully embraces it, gets into it, and I think it's very carefully done. What I felt about this was it's an odd show for me, and maybe it is because I'm not involved in the country and western scene, but it's not something I know that well. Yeah. And you could say, I guess, about Tutti Frutti not knowing the rock and roll scene well, but I'm more familiar with that in terms of that.
I mean, those songs are sort of standards at this stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because they've been in so many adverts and TV shows and things that you'll have consumed inadvertently or intentionally over the years that you just know them. This is a bit of a kind of deeper cut, apart from maybe a couple of songs, right? Yeah,
there's a couple of songs that obviously I know very well, and there's a few that I didn't, but you kind of recognise. I think this show, it feels kind of oddly familiar in a way, because it takes Glasgow, a city that we both know, and it takes actors that we both know, it takes kind of the music that we kind of know, and it's familiar, but then it kind of takes you out your comfort zone as well, because it does show you a different kind of side, or a different version. And I kind of like that, but I did wonder, and I did write down at one point, like, does it... I see what you mean, like, about John Byrne being kind of let off the reins a little bit more of this, because it does feel like, and I put this as, I carefully word this, because I think he's an incredible, he was an incredible talent and a fantastic author and artist. It's almost like at this point, like, is he too clever for us in a way. Like he writes a way, like I wish I could speak and I could write. And the wit and the humour in this are fantastic. And it's exactly as you say, there are high drama moments and then there's laugh out loud moments, you know, with Barbara Rafferty's Shirley just saying, I need to go and check if the hens have laid any pancakes. With, you know, the aforementioned line about Ken Stott, you know, when he says about, you know, I've just had a fried egg sandwich on a nervous stomach after, you know, Sissy says that Dorwood's just had brain surgery. It's amazing that, but then it sometimes feels like he's putting something in that it's exactly as you said at the beginning. It's unnecessary, or it's not really needed to develop the plot or anything, but it's almost like, I need to put this in, I need to put this in, this is good, I'll put this in. And it's not a case of him trying to look clever. It's a case of him genuinely thinking, like, this is what people want, and I need to build on this and add this and put this in and put this in. And it's maybe a bit too much at times and places.
I think to your point, he maybe needed somebody to sort of, you know, like kind of supervise a script almost. I mean, what I will say, if we compare him to somebody like Peter McDougall, right? Peter McDougall has an ear for dialogue. Has an ear for dialogue and conversation, and you know, quite a lot of pretty much all of the Plays for Today episodes that we've covered on the Culture Swally that he wrote, the scenes, they're all very talky, right? Because they're plays, I suppose. So there's long scenes of conversation, like in Just Another Saturday with John and his dad talking about the Orange Order, and you know, like the mum and dad talking about what, you know, and there are these long scenes and just about the correct lifestyle at the time, and there's a lot of kind of talky scenes in this as well. And I think John Byrne he's obviously got a great talent for, you know, creating conversations between characters. But it, you know, like a lot of it in this particularly is it's kind of like patter, you know, like especially with Ken Stott's character Fraser, because his conversations with all the other characters are just patter a lot of the time, you know, like threatening in some instances, but he'd be like the scene when he goes to the bar to buy the 6 kilos or whatever he's supposed to be buying of cocaine, but he hasn't thought to find out what the guy that he's buying it from looks like. You know, and all the staff in the bar were telling him that he's in trouble with the owner because they don't know at that point that he's been shot to death in a barber's for vandalising the toilets. You know, and then there's scenes when he's talking to himself, and it's all just Glasgow patter, which, you know, that's fine if Glasgow is your only audience, and I guess it's fine if Scotland is your only audience, but this was on all over the UK. It wasn't just on in Scotland, although it's a BBC Scotland production. And when you read some of the reviews, the contemporary reviews at the time, and it's especially like, you know, more so in the English papers and stuff, it's kind of like what you said about your girlfriend. They got fucking no idea. Like, I think like the Guardian reviewer said he got kind of 1 in 3 sort of words, which, you know, the Guardian critics have always been and remain like arseholes when it comes, you know, they very, very subjective when it comes to reviewing stuff. But, you know, I think if you want to be able to draw in a wider audience, you have to kind of allow a little bit of some, you know, you can't just, you know, I get it, he's writing in the vernacular that he knows and he speaks himself, but you don't want to like intimidate or exclude people that are interested in something you've produced by making it impossible to understand, you know? I think
it's, and it's right, you know, that's one of the kind of storylines that, I'm like, was there a need for that? Exactly as you say, the toilet door. And it's such a big thing for a few episodes, and great, everyone's involved. Ken Stott's, you know, smashed it up, knows the owner's going to be unhappy with him. He gets Timberwolf Tierney and his crew to replace the door. They replace it with, you know, a cowboy, you know, kind of saloon with a motif on it. Was there a need for that? part of the story. I didn't enhance it. Yeah, it gave a couple of chuckles, but yeah, was there a need for that element? That's just one thing that you could have kind of trimmed down a bit.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
just to your point, it kind of derails the plot a wee bit. You know, I guess it's a sort of nice diversion from one perspective, because these characters are all a bit kooky and eccentric and quite fun to, you know, you got Drew. There's the scene where Drew, Tierney's sort of mate, I guess, is, you know, he's lying on the floor of the cubicle with his boots sticking out, you know, doing some work. God knows what he's doing. You know, it's kind of funny, but that's all fine if the cohesion of the plot is strong. And I've watched this twice. And you know what? I wouldn't mind talking to Ali about it sometime from Scott's Way Hey, because I've watched it twice and I'm like, well, you know, the plot kind of wavers around a bit. And these, admittedly, funny, brilliantly acted and executed little side things, they just kind of knock it off course a bit. And you're like, well, you know, obviously Tilda Swinton is Sissy is the main character, and it kind of feels like it's supposed to be her story and the situation with her husband, and then we find out that she's a recovering alcoholic and she's got a son that's been taken into care. We have to assume it's because her and Dorwood have been considered unfit parents. Then there's a moment where it's suggested that the son might be Fraser's because they're supposed to have been messing about when Dorwood was deep sea diving in the North Sea in the oil industry and all this. But then you've got kind of Frank McCluskey played by John Gordon Sinclair, and it's like, well, you know, like there's something about his performance in this, and whether it's his performance or the way the character's written, kind of gets in my tits a bit. He's a bit like Gregory and Gregory's Girl, obviously, but kind of cranked up with a sort of cynicism and irrelevant, you know, and he's in a lot of irrelevant comedy. There's no straight conversations that he has with any of the characters at all. If you think about it, in the whole 6 episodes, and there's like 4 and 3/4 hours of this, every scene with Frank McCluskey, there's no like coherent character just can't have a fucking conversation.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right.
And it's kind of funny at the beginning, but then when you kind of want the plot to move forward and you want things to develop, and for whatever his character's role is supposed to be, you know, he's a sort of initially unwilling helper to Sissy, but why is he helping her? You know what I mean? Like, why is he decided? Because he doesn't give any sort of sign as to why he would want to help this woman clear her husband's name, because he's a fucking restaurant critic for the Daily Echo newspaper. So he's got no skin in the game at all, apart from the fact that he ends up with Dorwood's stash and notebook for about 5 minutes that he then leaves on the Bells Bridge, and the doomed J.K. Gordon Smart picks it up and I guess does the whole lot of gear and ends up in the Clyde. You know, so why is Frank McCluskey trying to help Sissy? It's not until like the last episode that he tells her that he's fallen in love with her. But it's such a random and unexpected thing for him to say, because you don't get that from him at all in any of the scenes that he has with the characters of Frank and Sissy have together. So it's all just a wee bit too. You said it earlier on, it's just a wee bit too clever for its own good, maybe in quite a lot of parts.
That, for me, came out the blue at the end when he says that he loves her. And I'm like, have I missed any signals throughout this whole thing? Like, there seemed to be nothing for me that led to that. Yeah, he's helping her, but I couldn't work out quite why. I just presumed it was he's just got embroiled in this. Is it because he, you know, like they touch upon in the first episode, you know, his history in terms of he got arrested for a protest and there was, you know, marijuana involved. And it's like, okay, is he trying to, you know, become a better reporter?
Yeah.
And he's sniffing the story and he wants to help uncover this story. That was my only thought in terms of how he got, you know, wanted to maybe help. And then, of course, then when he gets embroiled, that's the other thing. They're speaking about the when his old like schoolmate dies, the homeless guy, from taking all the drugs and stuff, and then he's on the phone to the reporter, and he's saying fingerprints, like they've somehow got him involved, and he's saying that like, oh well, that's the police are after him. They wouldn't be fucking processing that, so quickly or anything like that, or saying fingerprints. But he did give him a voucher, didn't he, for the meal. So of course dinner, they would have found his card on it, but still, that's easily explained away. Yeah. But then obviously it's because Boyle comes round to his flat and smashes it up that he's then I've got the police after me, which is easily explained away, but he's got Boyle after him. So is he just thinking, right, well, Sissy wants to take down Boyle, that'll solve that part of the problem. But then, it becomes kind of relevant in pretty much one of the last scenes that you're like, oh, he's in love with her. So has he just been doing this whole thing to try and get his hole, basically?
and why, what exactly? Now, don't get me wrong, I think Tilda Swinton is great in this, but what, why does he love her? Like she's manipulated them to try and find out more information about this drug deal and everything else, and ostensibly to get her husband Dorwood out of jail. But she makes him get a tattoo that he doesn't want to get. And then the even more inexplicable thing is all of a sudden he can play a decent guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, like, because he's on the stage with the McPhail sisters, Katy Murphy and Eddi Reader, and Eddi Reader, like, Jolene isn't on the stage at that point because she's incommunicado, which made me laugh.
Maggie Bell.
Yeah, it's Maggie Bell, yeah. So he's like fucking about this guitar and everything, and then all of a sudden they're playing from a distance together, and all the band are on the stage, and he's playing like a nice guitar, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? You know what I mean? It's maybe if I just watched this like not for the podcast, I just watched it just because I wanted to see it, maybe I would have been fine with all this stuff. But I think because like when you watch something for the podcast, you take a closer, more. I hesitate to say the word critical because, like I said, I enjoyed this. It sounds like I didn't, but I really, really did enjoy it. But you do look at it in a different way, and I wonder if maybe that's why some of these things have got on my nerves a bit. Particularly his character. I just think you got John Gordon Sinclair, incredible. Even in he's only got like a couple of scenes in that Sinking Feeling, but it's kind of eccentric. That's an eccentric film. He's a bit of an eccentric character. Obviously, Gregory's Girl is a really eccentric film. The character of Gregory is incredibly eccentric. And then I was trying to think about The Girl in the Picture that we did. And I think his character in that was a bit of a sort of off-the-wall kind of character as well, wasn't it?
It was just Gregory.
Just Gregory, right?
In a Photoshop, yeah. We discussed,
And this is kind of just Gregory again, but with less optimism,
Are we just seeing that because we know him as Gregory? I do wonder about this, or is it because he does just play Gregory in kind of everything that he kind of does? I mean, I know we have covered him in a few other things, but yeah, it does seem, are we just seeing it through that light? Is he always just going to be Gregory to us? I don't know.
Because he's in Local Hero, but in Local Hero he's sort of
he's always wearing his bike helmet.
Yeah, he's a drummer, isn't he, in the bands and the pub and all that, and he doesn't really have a lot of lines. And I think I like Gordon Sinclair. But yeah, the only thing I've seen him in where he's not playing a Gregory adjacent sort of character is World War Z, and I kind of feel like the main reason he got that is because they filmed part of it in Glasgow, and it's a small part, but he plays a soldier. I think maybe it's you can film in George Square for 2 weeks, but you got to give Gordon Sinclair a gig. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, he does. And the thing is, in fairness to him, there's no doubt that he's got a huge range, because I know he does a lot of theatre and he does a lot of classic plays where, he's playing characters who are beloved classic characters from these plays. So Gregory is not the only type of character that he's got in his arsenal by any stretch of the imagination. But maybe it's just unfortunate that all the things that we've covered him in, 2 of them he's been playing Gregory, crucially. But yeah, the characters have just they sort of have that spectre, sort of silliness, but it's just, I mean, just give the guy some coherent conversations in this, just to move it along a bit.
Yeah, he also has a top 5 hit in the UK with We Have a Dream. Yeah, can't take that away from him.
No,
you're right though. It is difficult to get on board with the character, and exactly as you said, it's difficult to see why he's in love with Sissy. And I agree with you. Tilda Swinton is fantastic in this. She's beautiful. I was going to say she's beautiful. She is. She's strikingly beautiful. Yeah, she really is. But what I mean is she's just an amazing force in this and talent. But I think that's why, and unfortunately this is going to be compared, and we are going to compare it to Tutti Frutti a lot, probably because, of course, it's almost a companion piece in a way.
Absolutely.
Thing. Yeah. I didn't care about any of the characters in this, really. Tutti Frutti, I struggled, in terms of, like, if I think about Tutti Frutti, I cared about Big Jazza. And Susie Kettles and Vince. I fucking loved Maurice Roves as Vince.
Yeah.
And Ron Donaghy's character. And I even loved, Richard Wilson and Katy Murphy, Miss Toner. In this, it's not so much I didn't care about the characters. I absolutely loved Shirley and Tracy. I adore Billy, Katy Murphy's character.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, all of Tom Watson's characters are great. What I mean is I found it hard to root for anyone in a way. With Tutti Frutti, you are kind of rooting. You are kind of wanting the characters. You're wanting the band, oh, come on. You're wanting them to have a hit, get on there. This, it's like, okay, well, yeah. I don't know. I just found it a bit more difficult to latch on to in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we come back to Tilda Swinton, so I think the only thing we've had her on is Young Adam. Is there anything else? I think that's it, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
So I mean, I guess this was one of her early roles. I mean, now she's a Hollywood superstar. Although apparently still lives in Nairn.
She does. Yes.
Yeah. But, comes from quite a, I guess, Scottish aristocracy, really, doesn't she? Like, she's got great uncles, grandparents and all that are... but, I've heard her described as androgynous, and I've never really thought of her that way. She's... I always, I think she tends to play strong feminine characters. And, there are sort of shades of Kettles in the character of Sissy Crouch, and it's obviously Byrne, he has a certain type of sort of female hero that he likes to write, like very tenacious and don't take shit from any men, even as much as she's trying to get Dorwood out of jail, and there's scenes where she's quite tender towards him, when he's on the run and they're on the run together, try to get up to Aberdeen. She's quite tender towards him, but, fundamentally she is a strong woman. And Byrne and Swinton were famously married for a lot of years. But, I think she's really, really good in this. And she's only, she's saying the lines that are being written for her. But there's a couple of moments where I wondered if she was corpsing a wee bit. And the first one was the scene where Sissy makes Frank put Dorwood's boots on, and he's he's sort of moseying up and down. Yeah. And she kind of puts her jacket over her face. and because that is funny. John Gordon Sinclair he's sort of physically has always been a very funny character. I mean, like Gregory's perfect example, right?
Yeah,
it's a very big, amusingly physical part, and the way he's moseying up and down in those cowboy boots, and she kind of puts her. And there's another couple of moments where she does that later on, and I'm thinking, because when you think of Tilda Swinton, or when I think of her, I think about, an actor who's incredibly serious about her craft, and she plays challenging roles, and she's fearless, and, she'll play like a diverse, everything from the fucking Snow Queen and the Chronicles of Narnia to the role that she won the Oscar for, Michael Clayton. Young Adam, obviously a lot of sex scenes in that and everything. So she's clearly like a fearless actor. So before I saw her in this, I always thought I kind of just had her pegged as somebody who takes it incredibly seriously. And then when I saw her doing this with these people who are like funny, like Tom Watson in this is amazing, and she's and a couple of scenes where it looks to me like she's maybe had to cover her face because, otherwise we're going to see like her having a big grin or laughing and kind of breaking character. So it was quite nice to see that kind of side of her. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know if she's done anything particularly funny since this, to be honest. It's always a bit serious, right?
Yeah, it does seem to be. I went 2 weeks ago to the Tilda Swinton exhibition in Amsterdam. It's been on for like a couple of months now. And yeah, we went. Now, it's not her art. What it is it's a big exhibition. It was great.
Yeah.
It's people and things that have influenced her throughout the year. So it's like a curation of things.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of her in it and a lot of photos of her and videos of her that people have taken. I did find it quite interesting. There's not one single mention of John Byrne in the entire thing. The only time his name is mentioned is when there's photos of their son, Xander, and he is wearing Tilda's grandfather's or great-grandfather's like royal Scots gowns.
Yeah.
Because you're right, she was from, royalty kind of aristocracy. But yeah, I find it quite interesting that for this role, Byrne obviously saw her as quite a muse. Yeah. And yeah, there's no mention of him at all, which I find quite strange. But
I think she lives with like a German artist now who's like same age as me. So I mean, he's a good like 16 or 17 years younger than her. So she obviously has a type of person that she's attracted to, like creative people like John Byrne and this guy that she's married to now,
Yeah.
And she writes poetry and stuff as well, right? I think she's very outspoken. I know she was quite outspoken against Israel recently and the conflict in Gaza and all that kind of thing. She's quite a political actor, which is why I always see her as quite a serious person, So yeah, it's nice to see her doing a little bit of comedy. Well, albeit with a bit of attempted rape thrown in there and murder and drug dealing and all the other stuff.
Yeah, just a nice bit of a laugh, I guess, isn't it? I suppose when you're thinking about that. Not really.
So let's talk about Tom Watson, right? Because
right.
Tom Watson has been in quite a lot of stuff that we've done. Like, one of my favourite episodes that we ever did up until now was the Gov and Ghost Story episode that we did for Halloween a few years ago.
Yeah.
Where he's a lead actor. He was the Chief Superintendent Taggart's first commanding officer as the Mint. He was in The Nightmare Man, playing a sort of islander doctor. He's just, I mean, in this, he's playing 5 characters, but 2 quite big parts.
Yeah.
He's absolutely brilliant. He's just, he's so good. He's so good in it. He's such a, I mean, I guess he would be described at the time as a character actor, Tom Watson. But yeah, I think that's maybe doing him a disservice because, a character actor is somebody who can be relied upon to turn up and do a job and perhaps play a certain type of character over time, But he's incredibly diverse. And he's absolutely brilliant in this. And what I love about it is he doesn't take himself too seriously at all.
No.
He dresses up as an Aberdeen wifey for his last bit.
I had no idea. I knew he was in it because I think you'd mentioned in the last episode that, Tom Watson's in it. I was like, okay. So when he turns up as Timberwolf Tierney, I was like, it's Tom Watson. Oh, cool. He looks good. He looks fucking great as a cowboy. Then, 10 minutes later, we meet Cherokee George. And I'm like,
No.
Is that Tom Watson? I was like, it can't be. I was like, fucking, who's that? I wrote, like, who is playing Cherokee George? Because I'm like, it can't be Tom Watson. And I'm like, it fucking is Tom Watson. I was like, is he doubling up? There must be something to this. Then when we meet Eric the Barber, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. This is genius. Like, and you're right, he's not taking himself seriously at all in these roles. Eric the Barber is just genius when he's been interviewed by the reporter, and I love the headline in the newspaper the next day, Eric's close shave, and a photo of Tom Watson as Eric the Barber. Cherokee George has to be my favourite though, purely probably for the last episode. When when he's saying about the worst fish supper he's ever had, and he's berating the chip van owner, I was in tears.
You want to get a big sign up there. The worst fish suppers in Scotland, bar none. I've scoffed a few fish suppers in my time, and I don't mind telling you people that was the worst fish supper I ever had in my life. Now, straight up, that has to be the worst fish supper I ever had in my life. Seriously.
He is just having the time of his life in this, and he's fucking brilliant. It's just, as you say, what a shift. And then again, when he turns up as the father, and then the old woman, and I was like, fucking hell, it's Tom Watson again. Quite a serious bit in the film, in the series, but it's Tom Watson dressed up as a woman walking our dog. Yeah, incredible shift in this, and it really took me by surprise, and I'm so glad I didn't look up ahead of time and see that he played 5 roles in this, because it really did just, once I saw Eric the Barber, I was like, I have to double check this. So then I saw there was a couple more, I was like, okay. But yeah, just phenomenal.
He's brilliant. I was looking at his IMDb. Sadly he passed away in 2001. But this was a guy who acted at almost every level from 1956 right up until the year he died. And in stuff that like tons of sort of anthology series stuff like the ITV Play for Today, the Sunday Night Play, to stuff like movies, Doctor Who, Coronation Street, Dixon of Dock Green, just a guy who would just, you can see where that diversity comes from just by taking a walk through his IMDb and seeing the huge range of different types of TV shows and movies and things that he's done. I mean, he's even done Take the High Road, he's done Minder, like things that you and I, he's done City Lights, all sorts of stuff over the years. And it just feels like, obviously, I can only assume that he must have had some kind of relationship with John Byrne, who's just wanted to, or whoever, or somebody who's just said, let's just put this guy in like 2 really eccentric parts, because Cherokee and Timber are both in their own way quite eccentric, and then let's just play with the audience by having him pop up in another 3 random little cameo 1 or 2 scene roles. Like when he's dressed up as the old lady in Aberdeen, he's literally on the screen for a few seconds, but he's got such a distinctive face. Like it's just like, it is again, like his shopping bag and his raincoat on,
It's definitely the in-joke. It's not for like budgetary constraints or anything, because there was plenty of other actors that could have played that role. It's definitely something, and it's just absolute genius. Yeah. As I say, I think the Cherokee George, but then the scene in the episode 5 where Timberwolf Tierney gets his ear shot and he's in the car park. And Maggie Bell, it's like, go inside and see if anybody's got any Germaline. Like, it's like fucking, I haven't thought about Germaline in years. It's like absolutely fucking brilliant.
Chuck pulling faces, it's only a crease.
Crease? Half-inch closer than that was me. Brains blitter o'er a tarmac.
It's a car park, no an aerodrome. Away and ask the bouncer if they've got any Germaline.
It's a bullet wound, no a midget bite. Ask him for a big glass of firewater. It's goup and tell him.
Would you not be better putting a tourniquet round his throat, no?
Just get us the ointment, Drew.
It's a brilliant line in that, where somebody says, "Oh, a lassie got her ear bitten off at the something. Her ears bitten off at the something dance. She still hasn't heard for the police." These little stealthy kind of one-liners are just absolutely brilliant, and again, it's where the script really comes alive. Like I wasn't in a huff, I was incommunicado. I feel like that's one I'm going to keep up my sleeve, I think, for the next time somebody pisses me off and I go a bit quiet on them.
I think the one that made me laugh a lot comes to from Ken Stott as Fraser Boyle. Plays a great bad guy. Ken Stott, I'll come out, line, rather than before, I'll come out to the line. It's when he's on the phone and he's trying to find out Frank McCluskey's address, and he says, no, McCluskey, no, KY, like the jelly. It's love that. Just made me laugh so much. Stott, I was thinking about this because I was like, he plays such a good bad guy. And I'm like, no, it's just Ken Stott. He just plays whatever he plays. And he's such a well-rounded actor. If I think about probably the couple of bigger things we've had him on is, of course, the debt collector, where, he plays it's not a bad guy, but he kind of is a roguish cop just determined to get Connolly's character nailed. And the scene that always lives with me from that is when he goes home to his mother's and his mother's been killed. Yeah. And heartbreaking. Obviously, in this, he's playing a villain, but then I think, look at like Taking Over the Asylum, when he plays this kind of lovable, hapless kind of, he's not a bad guy, Eddie, but he just is a bit down his luck, but he does have a little bit of an edge to him in places. But it's just Ken Stott. He's just a wonderful actor, and I just love watching stuff that he's in. He's just this greasy, podgy, fishy guy. And when we first meet him in Barrel, and he's listing all the fish to the owner, and it's almost like code, but you're not sure if it's code. He's just listing it all. He had me at that, and then I know what you were saying earlier about a lot of the lines are just patter, but it does just seeps throughout the episodes.
Hey, I think you maybe lost your way, man.
I've came about the fish.
Fish? What you talking about, fish?
Red snapper, blue snapper, conger, turbot, angelfish, query, lobster, whelks.
Sure. Let me redirect you to the street.
You weren't listening, big boy.
I think the last thing that we maybe covered that he was in was maybe Crime, when he plays Bob Toll.
Of course.
If ever an actor was more suited to a part than Ken Stott for Bob Toll, just, a career policeman coming toward the end of his career, trying to look after his guys and things, just needs to get through the next couple of months, and for there to be no scandals, so he can sort of sail off into the sunset of his retirement and everything. He's absolutely brilliant. And in this, we first see what a dangerous guy he is when he batters McCluskey for singing Heartbreak Hotel down the toilet, because he's sort of Elvis apologist and kind of protector, that he won't have anybody desecrate the king by singing one of his hits down the toilet. He's brilliant, and he is really good in this. And particularly, he sort of becomes more and more kind of, as the kind of more desperate he gets as the program, as the sort of the plot kind of develops, the better he is. But again, the thing is, it's where the script lets him down a bit is that it's not that clear what his relationship is with Cherokee George, and it's like, well, Cherokee George is obviously an associate and somebody who's a go-between for drugs. But, it's not that, it's sort of, you're kind of like, well, if that's the case, why is Cherokee George misinterpreting what he's asking for the first time? you know? Right? What is it, like bags of coal or something like that he thinks he's asking for? Yeah, and it's like, oh, come on, guys. You know, I mean, he's just kicked the door in whilst Cherokee's having a nap in his tattooist chair. You know, it's just a lot of that kind of stuff just feels a bit indulgent, and maybe lets the character down a wee bit, you know.
Yeah, I did think that was a little bit of a stretch too far in terms of the bags of coal. And yeah, of course, I got the misdirection, but yeah, I didn't find it on the whole that amusing. And again, something else that just didn't kind of add to the plot in a way.
Yeah. But the last scene when they were in Aberdeen, I mean, and how good was it to see like Alton's and the Beach Ballroom and the promenade and everything because the last time we had something set in Aberdeen was the John Hannah Rebus, and it was clearly not Aberdeen, you know. But you know, like they've definitely gone to film on location for this, and we even have that funny moment with Freddie Bordley's broad Aberdeenshire. Like difficult to understand accent.
I'd less said about that the better in terms of I loved having Freddie Bordley and as Toad stole the show for me. Like, but until he opened his mouth, and I was like, right, okay. But then I could say, you know what, it was a piss take. It's fine. I'll allow it that on that.
I didn't ken you were a loon, Kane.
Yeah, right. What's a loonkin?
What chapter are you in?
You telling?
Chapter? The Devil Dogs, Carfin.
It was amazing to see the Aberdeen, an authentic Aberdeen. It wasn't just a fucking tenement building with Aberdeen slapped on it. Like, it was proper places I recognised, I grew up with, the beach, that area. It gave me a lot of joy to see that. And to see Robbie Shepherd as the milkman. At the start of that episode at the Inversnecki. Now, Robbie Shepherd was a radio host on BBC Scotland. He had a show called The Real Blend with a lot of, you know, Scottish country music. Robbie Shepherd used to drink in the Athol Hotel when I worked there, and I used to serve him every day. And he would sit at the bar for hours, and I would chat to him. And he was just the loveliest guy. He used to just come in, have maybe 4 or 5 Macallans, and then away he went.
4 or 5.
Yeah. And just such a lovely man. And I wish I could have spoken to him more about stuff like this. Like, I didn't know at the time that much. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago, or last year, I think. But yeah, it was wonderful to see him. I didn't know he was in it. And I'm like, fucking hell, it's Robbie Shepherd. Yeah, wonderful. I did wonder, because I had a look, and the only down thing I had, and I was like, but it is feasible, is in that episode, we see McCluskey and Sissy, they walk to, it's the corner of Broomhill Road and Balmoral Place, outside a shop, and they're looking up at her son's window. Now, that's a good hour walk from the beach. Now, it's perfectly feasible that they did walk there and walk back, totally feasible. But just before we see them there, we see them in Fitty. And I'm like, that's the wrong direction from where you're going. So you're probably going to be maybe an hour and 20 minutes walk from there. But could have been feasible. Don't know. A lot of time passes in that. But yeah, it was wonderful to see Aberdeen. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, especially the Beach Ballroom. And I guess, I mean, I'm 99% certain that amazing scene with Freddie Bordley and the bike gang line dancing to Let Your Love Grow is in the ballroom itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, it is.
My only time ever in the Beach Ballroom was to see the Charlatans in 1995. I would never, ever was in there ever again. So I don't remember it, you know, obviously darkened room for a indie gig. But they must have filmed it in the ballroom for sure.
Yeah, I've been in there a few times, I think for theatre stuff when I was younger. So I'm familiar with the outlay. But yeah, that is in the ballroom. And that, to see Guy Mitchell and Eddi Reader doing Like Your Love Flow with the whole line dance of bikers headed by Freddie Bordley, I just had a huge grin on my face at that scene. It was ridiculous, but wonderful all at the same time. Absolutely adored that. Thought it was just wonderful. And I guess that, you know, they kind of go hand in hand, Katy Murphy and Eddi Reader. Like, it seems like every time Katy Murphy's on here, and it's not that often, we're taking over the asylum and Tutti Frutti, and she was on, what else? We did something else.
The Steamy.
As well. The Steamy, of course, yeah. I've got that written down. Why did I forget that? We just waxed lyrical about her.
Brilliant.
She's just amazing. And to this, what it showed me in this as well is it doesn't matter who she's with. The opening couple of scenes where she's with John Gordon Sinclair, the banter they have is just wonderful. And then she's paired with Eddi Reader. Now, Eddi Reader, wonderful, fantastic singer, Scottish icon. Her look in this is fucking amazing. The clothes, the hair. She's never an actress, though.
Yeah, she's not. I didn't think she was too bad. I mean, she's obviously just she's from Glasgow, and she's a lot of what she does is reacting to Katy Murphy and in some other scenes, John Gordon Sinclair. She's reacting, but where she really, as you might expect, where she really lights up the screen is when she's performing.
Oh yeah,
Like,
amazing.
and I think in those scenes, I think Katy Murphy is playing the guitar. She's definitely singing, and we know she can sing because she sings in the Steamy. And Eddi Reader's playing the accordion as well. You know what I mean? And the scene where she's singing "Let Your Love Grow" with Guy Mitchell is brilliant. I mean, her voice is amazing.
Yeah,
a great voice. Arguably a better voice than Guy Mitchell's for me. But yeah, she's got this lovely sort of soulful voice that she can lend to ostensibly a country song or country songs. She's really good, and she's not really done any acting apart from this. I had a little look. She's done a couple of obviously some music videos and stuff with Fairground Attraction and whatnot. She's put a lot of Robbie Burns poems and songs to music in more recent years. She's quite active in the Scottish folk scene still, but she's never sort of pursued the acting.
I don't know. I'm not taking anything away from her when I say she's never an actor. Like, she's good. It's just, when she's in a scene with John Gordon Sinclair, Tilda Swinton and Katy Murphy, it's evident that some of the lines feel a little bit like, okay, I am reading this. What is my line? But I think Katy Murphy almost helped hide a lot of that with her just fucking brilliance. And I just cannot say how much I just fucking think she's amazing as well, because it's just whoever she's in a scene with. We see that, as I say, in the Steamy. We saw it in Tutti Frutti with Richard Wilson. Just this chemistry she has with her scene partners. It's obviously just her in terms of being able to do that. The other double act that I just loved were Shirley and Tracy, played by Barbara Rafferty and Jenny McCrindle. Two great Scottish actors, just with great comic timing, but deadpan in their delivery. And as I say, when Rafferty says she just has to check out the back to see if the hens have laid any pancakes, but the two of them just like little fishwives, the waitresses. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of them in a way, but so well done. Yeah,
because Jenny McCrindle's character just sort of disappears, right? And the thing with her, I mean, I guess the thing that we've had her, I mean, sadly she passed away when she was quite young, Jenny McCrindle. But the thing that we've had her in that she's been like a lead character was looking after Jojo. The other couple of things have been this and Dead Giveaway, the last Taggart that we did with James Cosmo.
Yeah.
The character she plays in Looking After Jojo is about as far away from Tracy in this and the character that she plays in Dead Giveaway, which is a bit of it's not a cameo, but it's a small part. But it's a small part which she absolutely just elevates to a great part, and so she's so sort of similarly in this, she's so good. And then in Looking After Jojo, the character is not a tenacious character. It's not a character that will stick up for herself. She's a little bit of a doormat in Looking After Jojo. I mean, it's so sad that she passed away quite young, because she's, you kind of have to wonder what sort of work she'd be doing now if she was still around. She's absolutely fantastic.
No, she was great in this, and you're right. Like, Looking After Jojo, she's incredible, and it is such a shame that she passed away at such a young age. Would have loved to have seen what she was going to do. Did you enjoy the humour? I mean, I know we spoke about these little scenes that taking away from kind of the moment, but when Peter Mullan as Tonto and his mate are in the Barbers and they're untaping the shotgun from his leg. It's a fucking brilliant scene. It's because
it's so
you know
silly,
what that's
but
like. It's
brilliant. Yeah,
it's something nasty's about to happen. Like literally, in like 20 seconds, the guy gets shot, and as you say, it's so silly, but it's so funny. Just pulling the tape off his leg.
I was a bit. Until the camera shifted to the radio, and I thought, all right, okay. But because Tonto, played by Peter Mullan, starts to brush the shaving foam on Cole's chin, I thought, well, maybe they're just there to intimidate him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we see the camera lingers on the radio for a long time, and it's suddenly splattered with blood, and we're like, all right, okay, somebody's been killed here. We find out it's been Cole. But yeah, it's just such a... It's when like Tonto's kind of offering his hand to the barber to take the tape off his hand, so it's so silly. It's just really funny.
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah. There's a lot of, as you said, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Now, before I even come on to the plot, I've got 3 unanswered questions that don't relate to the plot, but kind of do. But I'll come to the questions I have about the plot. That was a really weird way to say that. First one, does Billy own the only taxi in Glasgow?
It does feel a bit like that. I've written that down as well. Yeah.
Secondly, is taping 10 kilos of cocaine to the back of a neon rooftop sign of a poke hat a good idea in Glasgow weather?
Where it rains all the time.
Yes. Didn't think it was a good time.
Or maybe it's genius.
It could be. If it's well wrapped up, then it's fine. Do you remember back in the early 90s when an international drug dealer would stay in a luxury hotel that was a Holiday Inn?
Well, the Holiday Inn was a luxury hotel, or maybe not a luxury hotel, but it was certainly seen to be a lot more premier at one time in its life than it is at the moment.
Yeah, I did wonder that. Yeah, because I seem to remember it did seem like a bit of a big deal, because I think like the Treetops in Aberdeen was a Holiday Inn, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that did seem like a nice hotel. So yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe that's not the unanswered question that I was looking for then.
The biggest unanswered question is, what's going on with Billy being pregnant?
Well, that was in my kind of wrap up of what is the main unanswered questions of this. But yeah, you're right. Like, what is she going to do with Dorwood's baby? I mean, it is Dorwood's baby.
Is it supposed to be Dorwood's baby? Because I didn't get that either time.
Yeah,
but I guess it must be, right?
Yeah, because it is. She's obviously interested in that. It's never explicitly said, but it does make sense. Because there's the part where Jolene gets the paper and she rips out the page about Dorwood being in hospital. And you're like, why is she doing that? Well, it's because she doesn't want Billy to find out that Dorwood's in hospital. And when she does tell her, and it's just oh, you're not. And yeah, so it is his baby. But it's never explicitly said. And we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. Where is Dorwood as well?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
He just vanishes. Did he take the coat? Like, has he got that? Who, has he taken that and fled? Where is he? We see the gun on the beach at the end, but there's no Dorwood. It's just vanished.
And did he kill Henderson then?
I believe that's what we're led to believe, yeah.
Right.
But then we hear, in episode 5, we hear the gunshot when Timberwolf Tierney gets his ear shot off.
Yeah.
But we don't hear any gunshot in
and why
episode
does Dorwood shoot Timberwolf Kearney? That's not clear either.
No.
He's supposed to, when I read, like if you look up the Wikipedia page for this, it says in the plot, it says Dorwood has been left in the car park while the others go to the bar to perform, where he shoots and wounds one of Boyle's associates using Boyle's revolver. But it's never clear that Timberwolf and Boyle or associates. I remember that being made clear at all. I remember him talking. He talks to Sissy in the bar, right? When we first see him.
It's Timberwolf that Boyle gets to fix the toilet doors, and then he takes Timberwolf the radio that he steals from Sissy's.
Yeah.
So they are associates, yeah.
So that's the thing. Then the last paragraph for the last episode is it says Henderson attempts to murder McCaskill with a drugs overdose. Like that, we've got that figured out. Dorwood, who's been contemplating suicide, again clear because he's seen when he's standing on the beach at Aberdeen with his, up to his ankles in the water. He finds Henderson about to deliver the drugs to O'May. So O'May is just a singer in the band. Yeah. It's never, you only ever see him when he's singing. So you never see him as this sort of dodgy drugs guy. And then Henderson is later found dead, and the audience is left to speculate on the fate of Dorwood and the drugs. McCluskey and Sissy find McCaskill and save her life. And this is the bit that's not clear. McCluskey walks away from Sissy, who he feels has been using him all along. That's not made clear either.
No, I mean, it's clear he walks away and leaves her, and I think that's beautifully done. That last part, where the camera pans to him and then it pans back and he's gone, and I think that's very well done. It's clear that there's been a discussion, he's gone, but it's not clear why.
No,
he's just professed his undying love for her, and then he just vanishes.
10 minutes earlier, he was getting off with her in the waltzers. And I've got to tell you, if I was getting off with somebody in the waltzers and Freddie Bordley turned it speed up to full, I'd be thrown up in her mouth. So, because I don't do well going round and round like that.
You don't fancy a spin on the waltzers with Tilda Swinton, no?
I mean, no, I don't fancy a spin on the waltzers with anybody. Like, going round and round and round like that just makes me feel incredibly nauseous.
Is Cherokee George still alive? Because
who knows?
Boyle's looking out and he's shouting for him, and you just hear, "Worst fish supper I've ever had." Where is he? How did Boyle's van get down to the bottom of there? Because when we last see Boyle, he's in the van.
Yeah, that's weird. And then, what's the whole point of the mafia bagman and Daniela Nardini as the Italian secretary? And who kills the mafia bagman? And crucially, why does he kill him? What's the mafia got to do with anything,
It sounded to me like it was because it's Richard Jobson that plays the mafia bagman. When someone comes to the door, I was like, is that Ken Stott? Like, it sounds like him, but it's not.
He's driving to Aberdeen when that happens.
Exactly, with Cherokee George. No idea. Absolutely. Was it Henderson that killed him?
Well, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just not clear. It's just all a bit confusing, And why? And why is he even there? Why is there a mafia bagman turning up from America and being picked up in an American car from what looks like the runway at Prestwick? You know what I mean? and why does the mafia bagman who's flown into Scotland have like a broad Glaswegian accent and understand a wee bit of Italian,
It might have been covered in that very strange scene with the crossed wire phone conversation, which I watched twice and I still couldn't work out what the fuck was going on there.
Yeah, the one with Boyle in the phone box.
The Jobson's character's phoning. He's on the phone to someone, but then we've got the crosswire with the Henderson, I think, in the car, and John Gordon Sinclair. McCluskey's speaking on the car phone, and there's a weird, it's two conversations overlaying, but they're different conversations, but you're meant to believe it's, I don't know. I think it was meant to be very clever, but it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird. There's just a little bit too much of that. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if maybe this has had the scissors taken to it, maybe by somebody in the BBC. Given, where I'm here saying, John Byrne's being indulgent and, taking the audience for granted, some blah, 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 blah. But maybe that's the case. Maybe he's written like 6 60-minute episodes and somebody's come along and said, nah, these have to be 45 minutes and cut out 15 minutes without really, without really taking account for the exposition required for some of these little nuances,
But we're going to have 2 minutes of opening credits and 2 minutes of closing credits each episode.
And what the fuck are the opening credits about? They've got nothing to do. You don't it's not until maybe like the fourth or fifth episode that we learn that Sissy's got a son that's been taken away from her. When we see the photograph when Dorwood's on the roof of the jail and all that kind of thing. But that wee boy's in the opening credits on the beach while she's riding around in a You know what I mean? It's like, why? It just seems awful. And the other thing and it shouldn't really annoy me, right? Because it is called Your Cheatin Heart, but there's like 5 different versions of that song. You know, there's like a sort of accordion, Scottish, sort of folky, Katy music version. There's a number of different, I think Eddi Reader sings a version at some point, maybe not as part of the show, but as part of the soundtrack. I don't know. I think it may be Tilda Swinton that sings it for the opening credits, maybe, because she only sings once and she sings from a distance. Yeah, it's just I think that's the problem. It's been left a wee bit incoherent, and it maybe. You know, I'm sitting here thinking maybe it's had the scissors taken to it a wee bit by somebody who's not intimate with the script and the story, you know?
I thought initially that the wee boy in the opening credits was John Gordon Sinclair's character as a child.
Oh, did you? What made you think that?
I don't know, because he was in it and he looks a little bit like him. And then it's not until, you know, episode 2 that he opens a medicine cabinet and we see the photo of the boy with Dorwood and Sissy. I was like, they've got a kid. Okay. You know, I realised that the same time everyone else did. But yeah, I don't know why I thought that, because I was like, well, there's no kid in this. It must be, I don't know. Is it some dream sequence where he's a young boy and she's on horseback coming to rescue him or something? Like, I don't know. Fuck knows. Yeah. Very, like, I think we're both in the same wavelength of, like, we really enjoyed this. Like, it was great. It's worth watching, but there's some parts of it that, is it just above us, or
I don't know. I think it's one of two things. I think there's maybe an element that maybe it's one of more than two things. Maybe there's an element of it's that you say maybe it's just a little bit too intellectual for us. Maybe it's just a little bit too indulgent on the part of John Byrne, or maybe it's been edited heavily, and which has left parts of it a bit incoherent. I tell you, but there's something that I noticed when I was doing my research for this, which is unexcusable crime. So Katy Murphy, Barbara Rafferty, Jenny McCrindle, and Freddie Bordley still do not have photographs in their IMDb profiles.
That's shocking.
That is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable. Now, somebody's probably listening to this and thinking, well, Greg, you can open an account and edit it yourself and put photographs in. That's not the point. I know that. That's not the point. The point is that they should be there already, and they should have been there for a long time.
Yeah. Especially
Freddie Bordley. I mean, he's just one of those guys that was in so much stuff for years and years and years. And, I think our second episode, you dug out this quote, but probably one of my favourite quotes is Peter McDougall describing him as James Dean with the flu. Which perhaps nobody's ever had a better description made of them than that, potentially.
I can't believe I still haven't picked. I'm still building up to it, Bad Boys. I downloaded them. The quality is fucking terrible, but it's Freddie Bordley and Alex Norton. Why have I not picked Bad Boys yet? Coming soon, Bad Boys.
Carl Howden, is it? Howden. Jacko from Brushstrokes.
Jacko from Brushstrokes, yes. Fucking brilliant. I need to do Bad Boys. Okay. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, Your Cheatin Heart. Wonderful, but mental.
Yeah, but definitely, if you enjoyed Tutti Frutti, it's definitely if you enjoy Tutti Frutti, if you're a fan of Tilda Swinton or any of the actors in this, it's worth watching, because despite the wobbly script, with the possible exception of Gordon Sinclair, but in fairness, probably just acting, the words that have been written for him, the brilliant performances from everyone, even Kevin McGonigal, who plays Dorwood, who's not that well known really compared to the rest of the cast. And considering he's a really important character, he's not in that much of it until the last couple of episodes. I mean, he's really good. He's really good as well.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's got some really good delivery of his lines, and he's really good.
I was interested to see Ian Andrew, who plays Drew, who's only in a couple of short scenes. He's been the script supervisor in tons of things that we've covered in the Culture Swally. Two Doors Down, he's a script supervisor, Red Road. Yeah, loads of stuff. Doesn't do so much acting anymore, but he does a lot of behind the scenes things. So, because when I saw him, I was like, he looks really familiar, but he's not. Because he's done very little acting over the years. But he's just maybe one of those faces.
Yeah, I think he does, because I was the same, checked up, like, who's he? I know him. Yeah. But it's one of those, just one of those faces, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, if you want to watch Your Cheatin Heart, all the episodes are on YouTube. The quality feels like it's been burned from perhaps somebody taping it off. In fact, it's definitely been burned from somebody taping it off the TV, because there's a little bit of BBC Scotland continuity before episode 5. If you watch it on YouTube, I watched it on YouTube. So yeah, it's well worth a watch if you're a fan of John Byrne or any of the company of actors that appear in it. So anyway, it's time to put Your Cheatin Heart through our Swally Awards. So I'll go straight in with the first award, which is the Bobby the Barman Award for the best pub. For something that's set in Glasgow, not a lot of pubs, really.
No, well, there's Bar L, which it reminded me of like Beluga in Aberdeen. Kind of similar-ish vibe. There's a Cactus Club, and
of course,
there's the Ponderosa, which looked more like a British Legion, or like a social club.
Community centre.
And then of course the Beach Ballroom. But I went with Bar L has to be the winner for me. Yeah, seems right.
I agree.
They do a nice vegetarian pasta as well.
Yeah, although they might put too many wedges of lime in your cocktail.
That's true.
Next award then, a tricky one, considering as I mentioned before, the smorgasbord of some of our famous Scottish talent, but the James Cosmo Award for being in everything Scottish.
A very tricky one, you're right. I did go with Tom Watson though.
I went with Tom Watson.
The sheer longevity and time scale of his career. But there are quite a few others that it could easily have been. Rafferty is in with a huge shout to Stott. But I went with Tom Watson. Bordley,
I think
as well.
Bordley, I think Stott maybe through the sort of 2026 prism maybe a wee bit too famous now, because he's not just in Scottish things, he's been in tons of things, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. But Tom Watson just feels like the right choice there.
Yeah.
Although I think special mention certainly for Jenny McCrindle at the time, and Freddie Bordley and Barbara Rafferty. Next then, again, no shortage of choices here, but the Teazout Award, what did you go for here?
I was torn between two, but I went with Cherokee George getting tied to the back of a motorbike.
I was torn between Fraser punching Cherokee George twice. It's twice it happens. And as I mentioned earlier, him punching John Gordon Sinclair, but I didn't take any pleasure from him punching Cherokee George because I liked the character. I did take a wee bit of pleasure from him punching McCluskey though, so I went with that one. So the next awards would usually be the Francis Begbie Award for gratuitous bad language, but this is BBC Scotland, late 1980s, early 1990s production. There's a few bastards, shites, stuff like that, bloody this, or shit that, or whatever, not particularly severe. And then the next award would usually be our Ewan McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity, but similarly with the language award, BBC Scotland, no one's taken their clothes off to a particularly gratuitous level, unless you count John Gordon Sinclair wandering around in his boxers thinking he's about to get his hole when he's clearly not. So I'll move straight on then to the archetypal Scottish moment.
We've had this before on the Swally, Greg, and I take no pleasure in it, but it's fishing a body out the Clyde.
I mean, I did see in the news that somebody got fished out the other day that's been missing for 3 days as well when I was doing the...
Shit.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that. But yeah, I mean, I used to work at Frankie and Benny's and the Quay, which is right in the banks of the Clyde, and I saw a few people get pulled out on either side over the years. You don't want to fall in at all. We definitely want to fall in the winter. I didn't go for that. I went with how seriously we take a fish supper in Scotland.
Very
it
true. Very
it
true.
feels particularly Scottish. I don't think that people take chip shop offerings as seriously in England. I've lived in England, and this is going to be a very subjective statement, and I don't say it to upset, annoy, or alienate any potential English listeners, but your chip shops are not good.
No.
No, English chippies are shite. Scottish chippies. Like, sorry, guys. I mean, that, you know, whatever you like, right? But I mean, I don't like your chippies. I wouldn't have a fish supper in England. But yeah, I think we take our chip shops seriously in Scotland. You know, so I went with that one.
Yeah, I could totally. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well.
And then finally, our Sean Connery Award. Who is the winner of your Cheatin Heart for you?
I think we've said it earlier, haven't we? It's Tom Watson.
All day long.
Without a doubt. It was never in question. You know, you could make an argument for Ken Stott, but no, it's Tom Watson. The sheer shift he puts in and dedication to the piece, it's just phenomenal. I'd love a Cherokee George spin-off of just, you know.
Just doing really bad tattoos, overcharging.
But without a doubt, Tom Watson for me. When I think about this back, it will be scenes involving him, probably, that I think of, and will give me most pleasure and most joy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how he's credited here, Tom Watson as Eric the Barber / Timberwolf Tierney / Cherokee George / Friar Tierney / Aberdeen Matron. Anyway, as I said, your Cheatin Heart at the time of recording, freely available on YouTube for anybody who's got 4 3/4 hours. Not that you got to watch it all at once. I didn't watch it all at once, and I did watch it twice. But it's there. It's there for the taking. So I chose your Cheatin Heart, which means that it comes back to you for the next episode. So what am I watching in the next couple of weeks?
Well, Greg, I've also picked a 6-part series, but don't worry, it's a 6-part. It's only 30 minutes in length, so it's fine. 6-part comedy drama series. I've been meaning to watch this since it first came out, and for some reason I haven't. Well, I did watch it last week actually, but you know what I mean. The second series has just come out yesterday as we record this, so I thought it was an ideal time to do this. So it's a show which stars a few Swally favourites, amongst them Ashley Storey, Greg Hempel, Laura McDonald, and the man who seems to be in everything at the moment, Sanjeev Kohli. It focuses on an autistic paleontologist and how her routine is shaken when her sister announces her engagement. And it is 2024's Dinosaur. And it's available on BBC iPlayer.
Okay. I don't think I've even heard of it, so I look forward to watching that.
Yeah, it's, I did, watch it last week, and it's, well, there's a reason I've picked it. It's very enjoyable. So I look forward to hearing what you think about it on the next episode. Lovely. So
Lovely.
2024's Dinosaur, Series 1, for anyone's interested. All right, wonderful. Right, well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this show. Please give us a little rating, review, subscription, wherever you get your podcasts. It does help the pod, or tell your friends about us. If you want to email us, you can, cultureswally@gmail.com, with anything you've seen in the news, any requests, or if you just want to say hello. And we have a wonderful website as well, don't we, Greg?
We do. You can get us at cultureswally.com. Links to all our socials, links to all our episodes, and a couple of articles about Scottish TV film. Come and give us some traffic.
Oh, you give me a right hankering for a fish supper now. Not a fish supper, I don't eat fish, but, you know, a chipper. Something like that would be nice, but never mind.
Chips.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Oh, well, you up to anything this evening, my man? It's quite late for you.
It's quite late. I'll be going straight up the wooden hill to bed, or the stone hill, because we're in Dubai. But yeah, off to bed, because I'm absolutely shattered. It's been a long week.
Oh, well, I will not keep you. Well, thank you very much, man. Till next time.
Till next time.
Don't listen to Harold, buddy. This time next week, you're going to find yourself in the Costa Blanca doing China Doll for one of the best bands to break out of Belfast in a blue moon.
I'd take the 5 years. He's just had a brain scan, you scumbag.
And I've just had a fried egg roll on top of your nervous stomach. Quit screaming at us.